it's working. Yeah, thank you very much.
Hasiko gara, orduan, egun on guztioi, eta mila esker etortzeagatik. Gazako genozidioak eragiten digun arduraren eta elkartasunaren emaitza da gaur aurkeztera gatozen liburua. Berriako Amagoia Mujika zuzendariak egin du edizioaren hitzaurrea, eta hitzaurre horretan gogoratzen du ATF-en kroniken berri, Orsola Casagrande kasetariaren bidez izan zuela, WhatsApp mezu batean halaxe idatzi baitzion. Kaixo, irakurgai batzuk bidali dizkizut, Palestinako kultura ministroak Gazatik idatzitakoak. Duela urte askotatik ezagutzen dut. Israelgo bombek bete-betean harrapatu dute, familia bisitatzera joan denean. Eta eguneroko bat idazten hasi da. Sekulako materiala da, eta oso garrantzitsua litzateke ateratzea. Lehenbailehen, irakurleak jakitea zer gertatzen ari den. Amagoiak berak aitortzen du, materiala bikaina zela, bikaina bezain gordina, eta nola edo hala eman beharra zegoela. Baina horretarako euskaratu beharra zegoen, eta orduan horrek suposatzen zuen euskara taldeko kidentza suposatzen zuen lankargagatik, beraiekin komentatu zuten, eta ez zuten inola ere zalantzarik izan, eta aurrera egin zuten, eta hilabete terdiz egunero ATF-en kronika bat argitaratu zen berrian, baina harako batean kontakizuna etetea erabaki behar izan zuten, etzelako eutzigarria, egunero bi orrialde, amaierarik aurreikusi ezinik, erritmo horri eustea. Baina ere, kronika hoiekin liburu bat egiteko ideiak berehala hartu zuen gorputza, eta gauzagarri bihurtzen hasi zen ATF bere semearekin Gazatik atera zenean, abenduaren 30. Eta, prozesu horrek ekarri gaitu ona, liburu honen aurkezpenera. Gurekin, ATF Abu Saif, daukagu, liburuaren egilea. Ahlan, ATF, ongi etorri. Ni neu Xaberri Izagirre naiz, eta liburuaren edizio lanetan aritu naizenetako bat, hainbat lagun aritu gara. Horretan, dakizuen bezala, liburua Aleka bilduman argitaratu da. Aleka, berria egunkariak, elkar argitaletxeak eta jakin fundazioak argitaratzen dute, eta, hau da, azken 15. Liburua. Ezertan hasi baino lehen, egilea, ATF Abu Saif aurkeztuko dizuet, liburuaren solapan bertan informazio gehigarria badaukazue, baina labur esan da, ATF Gazan jaiotakoa da, Jabaliako errefuxiatu esparruan, beraz txiki-txikitatik ezagutu du okupazioa, ezagutu du zapalkuntza eta gerra. Unibertsitate irakaslea da, eta literaturgile gisa ere, batez ere nobelagintzan nabarmendu da. Fata alderdiko kidea da, eta 2019tik aurtengo martxor arte Palestinako aginte nazionaleko kultura ministroa izan da. Ministro izendatu zutenean, karguaren eginkizunak zirela eta Gazatik Zizjordaniara joan berri izan zuen bizitzera, Ramalara. Baina, iazko urriaren 7an, gerra hasi zen egunean, ATF Gazan zegoen. Hain zuzen, ministro karguarekin lotutako eginkizun konpromiso batzuk zirela eta Gazara joan zen, eta baliatu nahi izan zuen bisita hori, edo egonaldi hori bere Gazako bere senideak bisitatzeko. Eta horregatik, hain zuzen, bere 15 urteko semea Jaser berarekin eraman zuen Gazara. Eta hantxe harrapatu zituen gerraren hasierak. Gerra hasi eta berehala, lehen egunetik ATF-ek eta semeak ara eta ona ibili behar izan zuten 85 egunez, abenduaren 30ean Gazatik atera ahal izan zuten arte. Eta orduan liburuan 85 egun horien kronika, egunez eguneko kronika agertzen da. ATF lehen egunetik izan zen erabat kontziente, munduari kontatu behar ziolak Gazan gertatzen ari zena. Eta egunero kronikak idazten hasi zen, eta Gazatik kanpoko lagunei, eta hainbat komunikabidei bidaltzen hasi zen material hori. Kronika haietako batzuk, The New York Times, The Washington Post, edo Le Monde, egunkarietan argitaratu ziren, eta noski baita ere berrian. Esan dezakegu, ATF-na izan dela Gazatik mendebaldeko komunikabideetara iritsi den ahots bakarrenetakoa. Inbazioaren hasierako egunetan batez ere. Eta kronika horiek liburu itxura hartuta orain, Israelgo armada Gazan egiten ari den genozidioaren lekugutasun paregabea da. Liburuaren ardatzak ezin zuen bestela izan, suntziketa eta heriotza dira. Baina hala ere kronikak bizi-biziak dira, eta literatur balio handikoak. Bertan kontatzen ditu, hainbat gora bera, ezta? Adibidez, bomben estandak zenbatzen gauez pasatako orduak, lo hartu ezinik, edo estanden distantzia kalkulatzeko, zehazteko, egiten zituzten kalkuluen inguruko kontakizunak. Edo hondakinen artean bizidunak, bizirauleak, bizik dauen jendea topatzeko egindako ahalegin gehienetan alperrikakoak. Anestesiari gabeko ebakuntzak, aurren amesgaiztoak, txikitutako etxe, eskola eta ospitaleak. Nola ez, jana eta edana, jana eta ura lortzeko ezintasunak eta abenturak. Eta bombak eta bombak. Edo nondik, bombak eta bombak. Baina ATF-ek bereziki Gazako herritarrez hitz egiten digu. Badakigu, okupazioa hasi denetik, 52.000 gazatar, baino gehiago hil direla, eta 95.000 zauritu izan direla. Baina, zenbakietatik harago, ATF-ek bere biziko ahalegina egiten du, biktima horiei izena emateko eta aurpegia jartzeko. Israelgo armadak ahalik eta jende gehien hil nahi du. Antza. Berdin zaie zenbat jende hiltzen den azkenean. Importanteena Gaza hiltzea da. Haientzat zenbakiak baino ez gara. Eta zenbaki bat zarenean 10 edo 10.000 igual du. Zenbaki bat besterik ez da. Horregatik, gorpu bat, harri artean gorpu bat aurkitu dutela, aipatzen badu, ez da edozein gorpu. Ali da. Jabaliako esparruko arrautza saltzailerik ospetsuena. Edo metraila pusketa batek hil duena berriz ez da hildako bat. Abdelazizen semea da. edo jaurtigailu batek sabela aldez alde zulatuta hilden emakumea, Hadil al-Masri da, auzoko babeslekuaren arduraduna. Eta hondakin artean bururik gabe agertu den gorpu hori norena da. Azkenean, jakin dugu, Hatemen anaia Hazimek esan baitu, bere seme Hauat dela. Berrindutako etxeak ere ez dira edozen etxe. Jabeak dituzte, pertsonak, familiak. Abu Jobain, Mahmud Mohaizen, Al-Madhun, Madhi, Abu Dajer. Eta hildako ez harago bizirauten dutenak ere badaude. Gaza izan ere bizirautera kondenatutako herri bat da. Halaxe bihurtu dute. Abusat uadia izan da, dendan geratzen zitzaizkion jogurrak eta esnea, auzian banatzen ibili dena. Familia osoak galdu ondoren gaua alari oiuka pasaduen gizona, Nabil da. Eta hondamendiriaren erdian, oraindik burkoekin jolasean aritzeko gogoa duen 6 urteko umea, Xauki. Eta 9 urte bete dituen neskatoa, Tasmin. Eta Wissam. Ia familia osoa hil zuen bombatik bizirik atera da. Baina hankari gabe eta eskuineko eskurik gabe geratu da. Ospitalez ospitale dabil, daramate, Wissamen odisea, Gazako herriaren odisea da. Bere oinazea, herri osoaren oinazea da. Wissam, arte unibertsitatean graduatu berria da, 23 urte ditu, eta atefen hiloba da. Izenak eta izenak, ez gehiago zenbakiak. Eta kazetariak. Lehen aipatu duan bezala, atefena izan da, Gazako sarraskia, mendebaleko komunikabidetara itxi den ahotz bakarrenetakoa. Kontuan hartu behar da, Israelek blokeo informatiboa ezarri zuela lehen egunetik eta ezin izan duela Gazara kazetaririk sartu. Eta Gaza barruko kazetariak kontrolatu da egon direla. Kontrolatuta bakarrik ez, hiltzeko arrisku larrian. Kazetariak babesteko komiteak argitaratutako azken txostenak dioenez, abuztuaren 16 arte, 113 kazetari eta komunikabidetako langile hil ziren, eta 52 zauritu. Berriro zenbakiak. Eta ATF-ek berriro izenak. Zenbakietatik harago. Mohamed Al-Jaya. Prentza txaleko urdinarekin Sebilera hil zuten, familia osoarekin. Akbat Fatima. Ez da berriro prentza etxera azalduko. Ez da Bilal Jadala ere. Prentza etxeko arduraduna. ATF-en lagun min-mina. Liburuaren lehenengo kroniketan oso presente dagoena. ATF-ek liburu hain zuzen Bilali eskaini dio. Izenak eta izenak. Memoria pertsonala eta kolektiboa da. Hauxe da Gazako egunerokoa. Bizirautera kondenatutako herri bati egindako omenaldia. Bizirautera kondenatutako herri baten oroimena. Gure edizioari buruz beste pare bat hitz esango ditut. Ororen gainetik, euskaratzaileak Irene Arraratz Lizeaga eta Maialen Berazategi Katalan itzultzaile eta Berriako euskara taldeko kideak izan direla. Lan handia izan dute eta denbora berriz urria. Baldintza horietan ere emaitza paregabe izan da. Irakurriko duzue. Ez gara bat ere harritu emaitzaz. Eta hala ere, eskerrik beroenak bioi. Azala, idoia beratarbideri zor zaio. Eta idoiak ere ez zuen lan erraza. Gazatik egunero iristen den irudi uholdea kontuan izan da. Eta gaindosi horretatik harago, Azal ederrau, destilatu du idoiak, eskerrak berari ere. Eta hitza atefi pasaurretik, irudi uholdearen ideia horritiraka, amaitu nahi nuke. Kontrasalean esaten duguna ekarriz. Gazakoa sarraski telebisatua da, bai. Baina lan honek berriz ere agerian uzten du, ez dela guztiz egia, irudi batek 11 hitzek baino gehiago balio duenik. Shukran, Atef, mila esker. Zurea da hitzat.
Thank you very much for the nice words and thanks for the 2 words you said in Arabic. Yeah, sahlan wa sahlan and shukran. Yeah, thank you very much and I want to thank all the people who made this book possible. Mainly, of course, Amagoya and of course Arslan behind her and the team of Pereya and Ilkar and Shakin and all the people involved in making this book possible. And I will start from Bilal, as you mentioned. I take this. Yeah. And actually, when we were in the press house I was for 40 days with Bilal every day before he's killed by the Israeli. And at a certain moment, I was just playing with the idea, telling him, listen, Bilal, next book, if I wrote it about the war, I just, as a novelist, I was saying, I'm going to dedicate it to you. I didn't know this is going to die, actually. It was just for me, we were spending 40 days together. So I said, kind of compliment, as they said, So I told him, listen, next book I'm going to write, I'm going to dedicate it to you. And he told me, no. Dedicate it to the people in the press house, not to me. Because he wanted to be, because he was the manager. It's like the press club in Gaza. So he wanted to be any foreigner who comes to Gaza should go to the press club, to the press house, any journalist. So I didn't know that he's going to be killed next day, actually. And so yeah, it's a pity, And when I started writing this book, I didn't mean to write a book, actually. I was just playing with the idea, of this idea of war taking place while I was swimming on the beach. And I didn't know, I forgot, when you work as a minister, you forgot to go to the beach. At least myself, I forgot, So I didn't go for years. Then I was telling my brother in the night, and my son, okay, let's go to the beach tomorrow, early in the morning. Because October 7th, actually, which people, they don't know very much, is the Palestinian National Heritage Day. It's where we celebrate our heritage. And we as, people under oppression and under attempts to wipe out our memory and we cling too much to heritage. So it matters a lot for us, all details of our heritage. And when I started as my mission as Minister of Culture, as a writer, for me writing was not, so I said, let's talk about heritage. So I developed the heritage department and we registered elements of Palestinian heritage, including embroidery, if you know it, the Palestinian embroidery, the classic dress and the classic dance, and etc. So it was the National Heritage Day. So I said, I'm going to celebrate it in Gaza. We never did, And unfortunately, the place we were supposed to celebrate this National Day was destroyed in the war, which is Carrara Museum, where you have the head and the statues of Ashtaroth. 4,000 years old statue was destroyed by the Israeli. And as I wrote to the lady in charge of the UNESCO, I said, unfortunately, this is not our own history only. It's a human history. It's not our, it's not our personal Palestinian, because every nation, every country in the world contributes to the world history or memory. So unfortunately, if you let the Israeli destroy these monuments and these statues, then you're letting them, and this is what Taliban did, if you remember, in Afghanistan, when they destroyed the statues. And it's the same, because killers are the same. Criminals, they have the same mind. That's the same DNA, I would say. So anyway, so when I started writing this book, I didn't mean to write a book, actually. I just was. Then Bilal, well, when I was writing with my handwriting, which I love to write to do actually with my handwriting, said, "Man, why don't you write what happens?" Because he's a journalist. I'm not. I worked as a journalist for a while of my life, to be honest, and I was editor. But then I started to write this, and I didn't start publishing them. I think after the 10th day or 15th day, I started to send these. We didn't have at that time. My laptop was broken, and from when I was getting out of Jabalia, so I had to photocopy them in my like this, my handwriting in Arabic and English, and send the Arabic handwriting to my Arabic publisher, which is Al Ahliya in Jordan, and to my English publisher, Ra, in Coma Press in Manchester. Then, of course, and suddenly my laptop worked, actually. I put it under the sun for like 3 days, then I started typing. But still after type, I would write, or the vice versa. So, and at certain moment, when I was writing, I want to write about myself. Because I felt that I could die, especially after 10 days of the war. And always I say, the hardest days of the war were the first month in Gaza City and its north. Now, okay, lots of course, even the largest massacres took place during the first month, actually, where the largest is in Jabalia, in my neighborhood, where 800 were killed. And I remember when we were picking the heads without bodies. It was very... So I said, in case I die, people will know about me and about my son. And the hardest mission you can do, being a father or mother during the war. Because you think of your son, not of yourself. So you have to feed him, you have to protect him with your body, you have to take him and run, and you have to make sure he's okay. And of course, when you sleep in the street with him, you make your body a pillow for her, or a mattress, so he could sleep on you. Because he didn't want him to sleep on the floor, in the sand. And this happened 3 times with me. 2 in Rafah and 1 in Gaza City. So I was writing just, because I wanted my story to be told of, heard of. And when it started to be published in a large Arabic newspaper and international newspaper, from as you said, The Guardian, New York Times, Washington Post, BERRIA, Financial Times, it's Le Monde, people started to get interested in what I'm writing. The people who live with me in Gaza, then they started to ask me to write about them. Because the victim usually, they want to be heard of. People like to be told about. Because they don't want to be forgotten, even if they die. And now, of course, I will tell you, I never dared to read the book. I never. And when I go to mainly Arabic book first, like Baghdad, I went, and Cairo, Jordan, and the last one was Rabat. My only condition, I'm not going to read from the book. They will bring somebody else to read the text. But for me, because every single word, means a lot for me. And it makes me painful if I read it, And now, what remains of many people who died is these words, For this, thank you very much for making their stories, their names. Bilal, of course, and Ahmad Fatima and Muhammad Jaja, they wouldn't expect that their names will be recited in the Basque country here after a year. This is an honor. Thank you very much for honoring them by this, because otherwise those people will be forgotten. Ahmad Fatima, this journalist, he was making us tea and coffee in the press house. This is how he joined the press house 10 years ago. Then after 2 years, he wanted to be a journalist. And in the last 2 years, he became one of Gaza's best journalists. A young man of nothing, he started to learn how to take photos. And he became a very good photographer. And in the war, when we were sitting in the press house, we were sleeping there, he was insisting that he's going to take photos. So he went to take... okay. So she's stealing my mobile. You saw a theft just right now, So Ahmed insists, I remember how I begged him, me and Bilal, not to go. And he went to this place which was attacked. And of course the quadriquarter, I don't know if you know the word quadriquarter. This is a kind of Israeli automatic drone, which, the drone, it kills according to an order, because there should be a soldier in the control room. He sees the images, then he hits the button. But the quadriquarter is automatic plane. It decides itself who's dangerous, who's not. So it takes your photo, and it puts in its memory, and it decides. The IE, artificial intelligence. Now, in the war, thousands were killed by this kind of technology. It's very little. It's like this size, and it flies on hundreds of them over Gaza. It's just they zoom the faces of the people in the tent sometimes. And if by any chance, they decide this face is dangerous, it gives order by itself. But the drone, the classic hitting, is usually somebody north of Gaza in the Israeli basement, and he sees the images, then he decides. But this, anyway, so it took his face and hit him. So if his face happened to be in a demonstration, or if he appeared as a journalist, for this, many journalists are killed, because most of the journalists, usually they are taking photos in demonstrations and dangerous places. So the quadriquarter take their face, and they think they're part of this. This is how we are dehumanized. And actually, until the day after yesterday, where I saw the last statistics when I arrived here, 174 journalists were killed. 170. And this means one journalist in each 2 days. This is the highest number, higher than the one in the Second World War, actually. Because if you consider this continue for 5, 8, 7 years, then you have 1,000 or more even killed. So this is, and no single media office in Gaza survived this war. No single. I know all of them because, because of my work as former Minister of Culture, because I'm part of this community, being a writer and a journalist at a certain time of my life. So again, back to the book. So the people, they started to, it was funny. Sometimes I walk in Rafah between the tents, and people will ask, did you write about today? Then they will tell me stories. I remember this lady who taught her child how to write and read on the sand. So she took me from my hands and said, see, I'm teaching him. Write about, of course, her kid is not going to make it, and he's not going to be Dante or, Mahmoud Darwish. He's not going to be great, But she wanted him not to be illiterate. And I would say, now, in Gaza, the electricity before the war was zero. I'm not saying, but we are the most literate Arab population. We used to export teachers to the Arab countries in 1920s, before the civil war in Spain. We used to export. When we were, before the Nakba, we were exporting orange and teachers. Orange. You heard of Jaffa orange, Yeah, the most famous orange in the world, And by the way, the word orange, in English, in Arabic, in English is Arabic word, and in Spanish. And the word in Arabic is English word. So we call it Portugal. Portugal. And the orange is larange, is an Arabic word originally. So this is one of the mysteries of the language, So the word orange for orange in Arabic is European, and the word orange in European language is Arabic origin, But anyway, so we used before the Nakba to export orange and teachers. Since 1920s, we sent teachers to Kuwait, Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, and North African countries, when they started their process of keeping the Arabic language, when the French, they want to demolish it. The land that used to export teachers, now, to the first time in history, we have electricity. Because to the second year in a row, the Palestinian, they don't have schools in Gaza. We don't have schools in Gaza. And most, now you have two generations, the people who were born in 2018, they should go to school now. They don't. And the people who were born 2017 were supposed to go last year. They didn't. And of course, those who joined the school earlier in the 2 years before the war, now they forgot the alphabet because they don't study they don't continue learning language and alphabet and words. So for this, I would say, one, the war is not going to end when the ceasefire is implemented. Another war will continue. Healing from this war will take time. It's not only rebuilding, I would say remaking Gaza, because there is no Gaza. All Gaza was just, nothing remains. And I sometimes, I tell myself, I feel pity for the characters of my novels. If it happened, they jumped from the box and they walked in the streets, they wouldn't know the streets. So it's good there are characters, fictitious characters in the book, not this book, the novels. But we who lived all this trauma, and that when my father's house was destroyed, I cried, whatever. But then this is the place where I used to sit, since I started my career as an author, and I sit in the chair near this, wooden stair, which goes to my room up. And there I invented all my stories. So whenever I describe a house, it's that house. I'm lucky. I don't know by which mistake or chance, I took video of the house in the 5th day of the war. A long video, like half an hour. Just, in the war, I lived all the Gaza wars. I was born during war in 1973. And I was in the first intifada, I was injured and shot by the Israeli and I was put in jail. Then the second intifada, my brother was assassinated. So I know all the war about the Middle East, But to the first time, I felt I'm going. Actually, in the first intifada, I died. They dig the grave for me, and I was supposed to be put in. I mentioned this, I think, in the book. I was supposed to be put in the grave, but then it's not a miracle, I was not dead. The doctors thought that I'm not gonna make it. So, but the first time in this war, I felt that I might die. I'm going to die. For this writing, and this I'm gonna finish here, so we'll leave room for questions. Was a tool of survival for me, because I only realized that I'm alive because when I wake up in the tent, I'm not sure if I'm dead or alive. Because all the people I was telling myself, they might all be dead like me. Because, you cannot tell. It could be like this is a dream. So when I was writing, I used, after finished writing, to read loudly what I was writing. So I could hear that somebody has written this. So I was telling myself, if I wrote this, if this text has been written, then there should be someone who wrote it, which is me. So I'm not dead. So writing was a tool of survival and to making sure I'm alive. And this is not fictitious. We authors, we like to make, metaphor, but it's not metaphor, it's true. At that time, I was not sure I would survive, So I wouldn't tell this story. So writing mattered a lot. And this book now, finishing, I'm going to finish my introduction. This book, translated in different languages, is bringing all these dead persons alive. And you talked about Hatem and my family. By the way, they're still under the rubble until now. They're under the rubble since 15 October, actually. Thank you very much for taking interest in this book and for your nice, heartful words. And thank you again. I'm going. Thank you.
Shukran, thank you. Mila esker, Atef. Norbaitek galderarik edo egin nahi badu, oraintxe aukera.
Bai, kaixo. Galdera hau zuretza da, Xabier ez da, hasieran ez edo entzun izena. Maile naiz, berriatik nator. Eta nire galdera da gehiago, prozesu editorialari edo buruzkoa, azkenean ohituak zaudete eleberriak lantzera, poesia lantzera, baina agian ez da hain erraza gisa hontako eguneroko bat lantzea. Eta galdetu nahi nizen, ze zailtasun eduki dituzuen, zailtasun linguistiko ez edo haratago, liburu hau tratatzerako orduan.
Bueno, editore bezala egia esan lan honen prestaketan edo euskaraz aurkezterakoan lana itzultzaileena da. Orduan horri benetan itzultzaileek erantzun beharko liokete, beraien izan delako lan potolbena. Ondoren editorek pixkat errepasatu dugu edo xehetasunak, detaileak kontuan hartuta baita ere bi itzultzaile izan direla, lau eskutara egindakoa da, gero denbora laburrean eta baina gurea izan da azken orduko, kasu honetan, liburu honetan azken orduko zera bat lana izan da, baina horri buruz itzultzaileek esan beharko lukete zerekin egin dituen topo eta zer zailtasun izan dituzten, dena ez da suposatzen dut emozioak eta lunkigarrienak eta euskaratzeko eta bestetik izan terminologia iztegi aletik izan ditzaketena, baina itzultzaileak orain ez daude hemen, baina egun hauetan hitz egingo dute eta beste plaza batzuetan, eta suposatzen dut beraien lanaren esperientzia hori adieraziko dutela. Editore bezala ez du izan berezitasun handirik aipatzeko.
Nik idazleari berari galdetu nahi diot. Ez dakit, uste komentatu dezula, jendeak eskatzen zizula agertzea liburuan, konstiente zinen Gaza kanpora ateratzearen beharraz, hau da, zuk egindako lana oso garrantzitsua zela jendeak kanpoan ezagutu zezan gertatzen ari zena?
At the beginning, this was not my task, to be honest, It was like, but then, for this I started writing in Arabic. The first 3 days, I still have them. And even the Arabic edition, we have them, my handwriting in Arabic. So, but then when I started seeing them published, and I realized, of course, I remember this interview in Rabat or somewhere in the Arab country, someone asked me, hey, how come you, during the war, bombing, parts of bodies flying around, then you write very eloquent, Arabic and very, I said, what writers do? They write. So this is my profession. It's the only thing I'm good in. I know I'm good in many things, but this is the thing I'm professional in. And then I was telling him, listen, in the battle, what the fighter does, he had to fight properly, otherwise he would die. So the doctor in the hospital bombs around him, and he takes the injured, and he made them good operations, so they survived. Journalists, why journalists die? Because they go to the field, to the battle, to the destruction, to take proper photos. So I told them, this is what, when I write, I have to write properly. I have to write about the people in a way to describe them. So, and the people, when they say, write about us, and write our stories, because really everybody of us was not sure that he's going to make it for tomorrow. He's going to survive tomorrow. So that all of us were like dead, waiting to be carried to the cemetery, even if we behave or we talk. And so for this, they want their stories, to be read. And of course, at certain moment, of course, I'm an author. I know the power of words. Right? Of course, words has powers. They're bullets. The words are bullets. They affect more than bullets sometimes. So I realized at a certain moment that what I'm doing is contributing, not only telling stories about the people who are killed or who strive to survive, or but also I'm contributing to defending my nation. And I remember Darwish, Mahmoud Darwish, our great poet. He once said, "We're not writing poetry; we're fighting with words." This was back then in 1967. 67, when he met Fadwa Khan in this famous poetry dialogue between them. He said, "We're not writing poetry. We were, since 20 years," he told her, "نحن منذ 20 عاما نحن لا نكتب الشعر نحن نقاتل يا جرح المسافر وطني ليس حقيبة وأنا لست مسافر." A famous poem by him saying, "My country is not a bag. I'm not a traveler." Many of you have read it, maybe translated. But he said, for 20 years we don't write poetry, we're fighting. So I realize if I don't believe in what I'm writing, I don't write it. Even as a novelist, you read books and to be a genuine author, you have to believe in what you say. And the impact it is going to leave on the audience and readers. And for this we write. Because, I chose, to be a writer because actually I want to tell the story of my grandmother Aisha. Simply, I didn't until now. Actually, I wrote 11 novels with my new novel, which was coming up next year, and I wanted to write her story. Actually, she has a fascinating story about herself being a beautiful lady in Jaffa, her life, and how. Of course, I'm not going to tell her story because but she always fond of her beauty and youth in Jaffa, and she used to go to the cinema. And actually, she slapped my grandfather one time, so she's a very strong lady. So I want to tell her a story, but I failed until now because I think all the characters I'm writing in my novels are different versions of her, So anyway, but I want to tell her, so I chose to talk about her pain and her suffering when she was forced to leave Jaffa in 1948. Until now, she has 3 villas in Jaffa. Until now, they're existing there. But she died in a refugee camp. So I want to tell her a story, that's it. So writing has a message always, And even if you want to entertain people, as writing as entertainment, and it has. Even this is a message. It influences life. So I would say at a certain point, I wanted, but I didn't want to be, I was a politician, I might go back to politics, God knows, I don't want, but I don't want to be a politician speaking. And I don't want to be a political scientist analyzing the situation, or a historian who writes history. I chose to do it in my way as a writer. So, and sometimes people will ask me, I remember, you mentioned that 500 were killed in Jabalia massacre, but there are 800. I said, but when I went to collect the bodies, there were 500. So I'm not reporting. I'm not a journalist. So doesn't mean that what I write is not accurate. It is accurate 100%. But more information comes up later. But I'm not following it because I'm not doing investigation. So. For this, I wanted what I'm writing, always I wanted actually, but in this book, to be as life is. It's not we imitate life as Aristotle would say, writing is imitation of art, or art is imitation of life, It's just, or photocopy of it. It's just, I thought this situation I'm living in, worth to be known about and worth to be transmitted through words. So I do it as it is, Of course, I'm a political scientist and author and politician. I read a lot in my life and so I could use my culture sometimes to explain things, which is normal, And okay, that's it. I don't find more words. It's okay. Thank you.
Beste galderarik? Bueno, besterik ez bada, horrelaxe amaituko dugu, prentsaurrekoa. Eskerrik asko berriro.
Say it again.
Shukran. Atef.
Thank you.
Eta, bueno, gogoan hartu gaur arratzaldean 7:00 Antzokizarrean, Donostiako Antzokizarrean ekitaldi irekia izango dela, irekia sartzeko baimena duenarentzako.
Thank you very much.
Eta hor elkar ikusiko dugu berriro. Kontuan harrezazue, Donostiara kotxez sartu nahi baduzue, arratzaldean zailtasunak izango direla, orduan logistika kontuak ere aintzat hartu. Mila esker.